Hello, Michael Neal. I wanted to take just a moment to give you some feedback on realmrneal.com. I've done a little web design, and back in the day, I think I'd appreciated if somebody would have given me some feedback. And so you'll have to excuse me, I'm going to take some liberties. Uh, First off, it's been wonderful to work with you in this course. I've really enjoyed some of your insights on the discussion boards, and hope we could stay in touch after the course is done via Twitter or email or otherwise. I'd like to see how realmrneal.com plays out in your classroom. I think it's going to be a great thing for you. What I wanted to do is just briefly take what most people would agree as the top 10 principles of effective web design and point it to realmrneal.com. So, top 10 principles. First off, things like purpose and communication. You have a specific purpose, you have things to communicate that are definite. There's nothing nebulous about what realmrneal.com is trying to accomplish. Typefaces. Things like the serif fonts or sans serif fonts. I think you've got a neat combination going on where some of the headings have a serif feature to the font, but those things that need to be read, like the description of Algebra 2, is not. So you take a look at your fonts and your typeface, and it really does give a kind of a intriguing visual nature to the whole website. Next, color choices and images. You've got a neat little splash of color going on here in your top navigational bar, and an occasional splash of color in a heading here. I think that the background, although most of the time a white background is preferred, this kind of a recycled paper effect, a little bit of maybe almost a parchment effect, makes for a really neat educational website. The images that you have scrolling here load very quickly and do an excellent job of bringing attention to the homepage. I imagine that if they're easy enough to adjust, perhaps when you're studying parabolic motion, the water fountain might be a neat image. If you're studying something else, if the images could be changed, that would really highlight that image slideshow and be a visual draw for your website. Navigation. I really like the navigational bar being at the top. And notice it's at the top of every page. There's no question as to whether or not I'm still on Mr. Neal's website. It's visually congruent. It has purposeful redundancy, and I think that's going to make for a website that's very easy for your students to use. The grid-based layout and the F-pattern design concepts are basically how a layout of a website can help visually navigate the site. And you've got a nice grid-based layout here, and on your individual pages, you have definite layout that I think is going to makes a lot of sense to your users. Load time is exceptional, even with the pictures that loaded very quickly, and even the idea of being mobile friendly is the last of all of those top 10 hits. And as you can see, the real MrNeal.com loaded decently on even my phone. I'm sure it would look great on an iPad or tablet. And so you've got the top 10 pretty well taken care of. If I could give you just a couple hints and tips, I might consider changing these things, but these are just suggestions. Notice you've got a good deal of space at the top of your website that is just the heading, Mr. Neal. Also, you've got some space here that's used for a very intuitive statement. Click on the click on a class to find extra resources. That's going to be pretty intuitive. That's an instruction that's not needed on a web page. Would it be possible to take your heading here, Mr. Neal, math and physics teacher, put that here in this space, and thereby use this top space to move the entire slideshow up, and that would, the top of your web page would then start about right here, give or take a bit, and expose your Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Honors Physics descriptions as immediate to anybody visiting your site. Consider it if having these three boxes, this grid visible for your first-time users, if that's important, that's maybe a choice to consider. My only other critique would be the navigation of the individual pages. So here's Algebra 1. If I want to go to the bottom, let's graph a quadratic function. Notice that that's going to scroll me through all of those other individual sections. So by the time that graphing quadratic functions is at the bottom of this site, and each of these individual pieces has 10, 12, 15 links, as solving equations does, this click is going to be a pretty long scroll. Is there another way to do that? Could I have that that name anchor immediately go to graphing quadratic functions, or whatever that next section is? I might consider those two things. They're small things, and certainly I don't think they're not deal breakers at all. I think you've got a great page going, and I think your students are absolutely going to enjoy the new resources that you're going to be able to bring them through therealmrneal.com. Thanks for letting me have my 2 cents, and I hope we stay in touch.